All right, cool. That is done and dusted. Let's head to the second game that happened last night. That was also tied at 2-2, hanging in the balance. And yet again, the road team comes up trumps. The Clippers take game 5. No Kawhi Leonard, no problem. Wow. Yeah, so obviously on this call, Bray has got the Jazz, is that correct? And Lancashire Lambert is on the Clippers side. And we really saw playoff P finally emerge. He really came out of his shell into his own. Bray, how are you feeling about the Jazz? We actually have Carl. He has been raging in mine and Ed's chat, and Ed just must be loving it because he's got a Jazz and Philly fan just absolutely livid from last night, and he's just sitting there watching the mess unfold.
In the words of the great American philosopher, Mr. Chris Brown, how can I hate from outside the club if I can't even get in? I can't hate. I'm just there watching. I can't really say anything.
I like that. Anyway, Bray, as a Jazz fan for these playoffs, how are you feeling?
Mildly concerned, but unsurprised because even going back to the start of the series, this is an awful matchup for the Jazz. Perimeter defenders are not their forte. They've got Royce O'Neal trying to guard Kawhi Leonard, basically switching between Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Like, they've got Joe Ingles, who is a really good player, but he's not a physical specimen by any means. He's a big dude, but you know, they're like, it's just tough for them to guard these guys. It's not a great matchup for them, especially with the revelation that Ty Lue has had in that he can't play Zubac because Zubac gets torched by everyone. And for some reason, he went back to it in the early part of this series when the Jazz got their wins. And he's since realized that's absolutely ridiculous. And even when their best player, their MVP in Kawhi Leonard, is out, he still only played Zubac for 8 minutes because he knew that's just they weren't going to win the game that way. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. And props to him because he's spotted that one. And yeah, I think from the Jazz side, obviously it's a bad matchup and exacerbated. They haven't had Mike Conley, who is a very, very key part of this team and a key part to unlocking Rudy Gobert's offensive game. Their pick and roll between the two of them is absolutely incredible because Mike Conley knows exactly where Gobert wants it, and no one else on that team really reads him like that. And it's just a shame because they play such beautiful basketball between the two of them. You put the shooters they have around them, and yeah, and then obviously it piles more pressure onto Donovan Mitchell, who has to try and make up for it, put in all of this effort, and it's a big ask for him. Yeah, so from a Jazz perspective, concerning, but this series ain't over.
It ain't over. It ain't over.
So
George,
go.
I was just going to say, George, from outside looking in, Clippers Jazz, what did you see from yesterday's game? What did you see from the series?
I mean, it was great to see. Like, I think everyone's been waiting for playoff P to emerge and waiting for him to turn up, and he showed out. I mean, how could you not be happy for him and the Clippers as a whole with that performance? Each game, if you're looking deep into the series, his performances haven't always been there, but each game he's been picking that performance up. And I think this game where Kawhi Leonard wasn't there was a big ask for him and a big opportunity. And I think he really sees that and a lot of help. I think overall throughout the game, as you sort of progressed, it definitely started to seem to turn into more of a 3-point shooter contest towards that end. And in the end, it went more into Clippers' favor and they pulled it out with that end towards it. They just kept it up. But it was a very close game, very good to watch all the way through. I do have to agree with Bray in terms of the connection side, where you see with Donovan Mitchell having to carry that more weight and with the connection with Mike Conley as well. So we'll see how it goes. In my opinion, I thought Bray would feel more slightly confident with it, especially seeing as Kawhi Leonard has gone off. We just got to see how Paul George carries this load. I'm not saying like he's going to go off with it or he's going to shoot all the way down, but surely, you know, there's a lot of pressure with George in that aspect, knowing that, and with the Clippers in general, knowing that they don't have as much help in that end as well.
So I had the Jazz, both the Jazz and Clippers in the regular season. I want to touch on a couple of things that Bray was saying. So Royce O'Neal, I think that's a bit harsh. I think he was arguably the Jazz's best wing defender, well, in the regular season and in the playoffs as well. But it's super harsh. It's super hard when he's your only real solid wing defender. Spider isn't the best wing defender either, and I think then that may also potentially link to the other side of the court where it is shot creation. The Jazz don't have many shot creators on their squad. They are predominant. I think at one point, I remember doing some stats earlier in the year where 50% of their shots was coming from three, and more often than not, they are generated by kicking, by driving kicks, open threes, etc. It's not off the dribble. The only two players who do that on the Jazz, I think people have mentioned it, are Clarkson and Spider. And that is also the importance of Mike Conley, because he is really the only other guy who can really create a shot off the bounce or by himself. Joe Ingles can do it, but he's more of a playmaker rather than an actual shot creator. But Bogdanovic, he's more a pure shooter. He won't necessarily take someone off the dribble or create ISO balls. So I think that's also another key thing to mention about why Conley is out as well. And the workload for Mitch, I think his stats for the past, every game in the series has gone on. It's been worse and worse and worse. I think that may be because of the more workload he has to do and the defensive side as well, because Utah just don't have that many good wing defenders. Yeah, those are just my thoughts on the series. And you're thinking with Kawhi Leonard being out that it would be less pressure defensively, but Paul George decided to turn into Indiana Paul George from the East if with his battles with LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah,
we should shout out Paul George. We can't just leave it on Paul George was good. Like he has taken a lot of abuse. He has invited a lot of the abuse as well by doubling down on his stance and then not performing. He went off. 37 points he scored, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and 2 blocks.
Tell him, Bray. Let him know.
Oh, I mean, he was 10 of 11 free throws as well.
But Bray, don't leave out your boy. Don't leave out your boy who's coming to the party as well.
Okay, this is the other point. So this is why I'm quietly confident that the Jazz are going to win this series, because there's 2 guys who played very well in this game. In Reggie Jackson, who was the other ball handler that Paul George needed. Paul George doesn't play that well if Reggie Jackson doesn't take some of those ball handling responsibilities. So props to him, had a very good game. Marcus Morris also had 25 points, shot 10 of 16. What is this big three from the Clippers? It's incredible. I do not expect Reggie Jackson and Marcus Morris to turn up in such a big way for the rest of this series. And then you look down their roster and you go, oh, Pat Bev is not going to turn up. Zubac isn't going to play. Luke Kennard is overpaid and underused. And Terrence Mann is nice, but is Terrence Mann. So
good dunk on Gobert though, didn't he? Very nice.
Excellent dunk. But this is why I'm quietly confident, because I trust the Jazz players way more, and playoff P was incredible. It would be so cool if you could do it again, but who's seeing that?
Yeah, to finish out the season, to finish out the series, that's what I'm saying. That's where the question mark is now. Like, I hope he can do it. Like, it'll be amazing to see, and it'll put question marks on that abuse, I think, if he manages to pull Clippers out this series without Kawhi.
Yeah.
A couple things on Bray's little monologue. Firstly, if a guy performs below par, below his expectations for 20 games, and on 21st game he performs amazingly, I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, he actually is amazing. Just saying that, like, come on, we need a bit more of an extended.
No. I just want to say we need to give him props, because if we give him all the crap that we normally do, we've got to give him props when he is good. You can't have it. You have to have it both ways. I'm just trying to be fair.
Okay, fine, whatever. Secondly, on what you're saying about the Clippers' big three, yeah, that's quite funny as well, because Pat Bev is just non-existent anymore in the playoffs. I don't know if it was confusing. I think there were a couple games where he wasn't playing because of injury, and then he had some DMPs, coaches' decisions. And I've spoken previously about the Clippers in the regular season. They love giving big games off to guards to go off. And again, that's why Spider did go off a start. And again, another reason why Mike Conley's so big for them. Bugger had something else, but I completely forgot. Anyway, whatever.
Let's just wrap this up. Series predictions, guys.
Jazz in 7 for me.
Again.
Jazz in 7.
You know, I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna stick with playoff fee. I'm gonna say Clippers in 7. I'm gonna keep
7?
it controversial. Yeah.
Yeah, because Clippers have a really bad record of closing out at home.
Yeah.
I would.
It might be the turn.
As Ed said, I would absolutely love to see the Clippers win so they can get torched by Chris Paul in the next round. Clippers in 7. That's what I'm going with.
Yes.
Let's see it. Come on, Chris Paul.
I would really the 4 finals teams of the 4 conference finals teams I like to see. I like to see Suns, Jazz, and then whoever's let's just say Hawks for argument's sake. No, I'm genuinely not firing any shots. Hawks for argument's sake, and Bucks. I like it because none of those key players ever won rings before, and it'd be super cool that one of those teams that will kick off their legacy, that Final 4, being new, fresh, and unique. I don't think any of them have made the conference finals in. I don't know. If I've been alive when either one of those 4 teams made. Hawks did against LeBron.
Yeah, but obviously this iteration of the Hawks hasn't. But no, it's very, very exciting for all of the teams left. It's nice to not have a repeat again. Sorry, Warriors.
That's what I don't want to see Clippers or Nets, because KD's got his ring already. Kyrie's got it. I like Harden, but I want Harden to get it. And then even from the Clippers, Kawhi's got his, but I just want to see. I want to see one of the other big dogs get a ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go Phoenix. That's who I'm rooting for. If Philly get knocked out. Yeah,
I do love them.
All right, cool. Thank you guys for joining me. Sixth man with Salt Bray, House of 03, and House Lasku. Maybe that's your sign. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it looks a bit weird. We'll just run with it. Yeah, so as Bray said, 6s and 7. But yeah, peace out.
See ya.